Who are the legit children of Israel? Right? That's a nice question. First and foremost, I want to take you guys here to Revelations 2:9, right? And it reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Somebody is perpetrating a fraud. Somebody is going around saying they are Jews and are not. And I like to take this into consideration. Romans 3:4. God forbid, yea, let God be true, but every man a liar. Tonight, we are going to let the word of God be the final authority on who, in fact, is the true Jew and who is the synagogue of Satan. Right? Isaiah 8:20. Look to God's instructions and teachings. People who contradict his word are completely in the dark. So after we take a look at all of this evidence for who is the legit children of Israel, the 12 tribes chart of the Ashkenazi Jews, right? Whoever's identity contradicts the word of God, that's the people who are in the dark, right? So again, I want to reiterate tonight's topic, right? And that is, who are the legit children of Israel? Legit, of course, is short for legitimate. Legitimate means conforming to the law or to rules. It's important, right? So, and who are the children of Israel? Let's define that. Israel is a man who was originally named Jacob. This is a debate about who is legitimately his child, children, or offspring. This is not about who was allowed to convert to Judaism. I want to make that clear. It's about who the legitimate offspring. How do we establish if somebody's a legitimate offspring of Jacob or Israel? It's very simple. Numbers 1:18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day, on the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, as Dr. Michael Brown himself has already affirmed. Ezra 2:9 affirms it also. It says, but they could not shew their father's house and their seed, whether they were of Israel. One more, of course, here we have Leviticus 24:10, where we have an Israelitish woman. She has a son by an Egyptian, and he is juxtaposed from the children of Israel in two different instances here in this verse in Leviticus 24:10. Right? So I want to take you guys to a man by the name of Dr. Henry Abramson. Right? And he's notable for his teachings on Jewish history and Judaism as a religion. He was assistant and later associate professor of history and Jewish studies at Florida Atlantic University from 96 to 06. And during that time, he held appointments at a number of prestigious universities such as Oxford, Cornell, Harvard, and Hebrew University. He received his PhD in history from the University of Toronto. Dr. Michael Brown has even recently referenced his work on his Line of Fire show to assist a caller in understanding Jews in the diaspora, right? So he's a very qualified man and somebody who Dr. Michael Brown recognizes as credible, right? When describing the founding and genetic bottleneck event for the Ashkenazi Jews, he names the Kalanimus family as the nucleus thereof. Sometime around the year 800 CE, a small group of Jews, he says, left northern Italy. The Kalanimus family, for example, they made their way to the Rhineland in contemporary Germany. Those people formed the nucleus of Ashkenazi Jewry. So according to Dr. Henry Abramson, this Kalanimus family is a former of the nucleus of Ashkenazi Jewry. And this, coincidentally enough, is a symbol of the Kalanimus family, which is an eagle. Right? Now, let's go to the Jewish Virtual Library and see what they had to say about the Kalanimus family. The Kalanimus, one of the most eminent Jewish families in Germany, which flourished from the 9th to 13th century, especially in the cities near the Rhine. Among its members were numerous rabbis, preachers, poets, teachers, authors, moralists, and theologians. And most of the prominent communal leaders of this period came from its ranks. The origin of that family go back to the 8th century Italy. Notice it's Italy they go back to, not Israel, Italy. Although the name Kalanimus appeared in Talmudic literature, the father of Onkelos, the great translator of the Bible, was, according to Avdah Zarah 11a, called Kalanimus. So we're tracking this history of this Kalanimus family, right? So they reference the oldest Kalanimus member who's referenced in Talmudic literature. So let's go to this Talmudic literature and read what it says about the origins of this Kalanimus family. The Gemara mentions other Romans who converted to Judaism. It relates Onkelos bar Kalanimus converted to Judaism.
40 years. In today's world, that's a lifetime. That's 4 decades of proudly serving this community. That's 4 generations.
So according to Dr. Henry Aberson, the Jewish Virtual Library, and the Talmud, the Ashkenazi Jews were founded by a family of Italian Roman converts. They cannot be the legit children of Israel. They can't, right? So this is who I am saying is the legit children of Israel. It's very clear through some of the things said in Dr. Brown's opening round that he doesn't actually understand the claims being made here. At no point are we claiming that this is the absolute for all of the Israelites in the world. At no point, right? But this is the people who we believe are affected here in the Americas and are Israelites in the Americas. This doesn't count for any other parts of the world, but we do emphatically take the stance that the Ashkenazi Jews are not Israelites, right? So again, Judah, the African Americans, Benjamin, the Commonwealth and Dutch Caribbean, Levi, the Haitians, Simeon, Dominicans, Zebulun, the Central Americans, Ephraim, Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, Cubans, Gad, Native Americans, Reuben, Seminole Indians, Naphtali, indigenous Argentinian and Chileans, Asher, Native Colombian and Uruguayans, Issachar, Mexicans. Right? Dr. Brown affirms, as he's already said, that the Israelites of antiquity were not white. There was not a single white Jew until roughly the 8th century AD. And the Igbo of Nigeria have a valid claim to Israelite descent, which basically is a virtual forfeiture of this debate. I'll explain later. Right? He also just today said there's no doubt that there are both black and Hispanic Jews, also a virtual forfeiture. Right? He also says the Israelites were not white, but they were also not black, but brown. But if you take a look at our chart here, which I in this version of the chart that I cultivated, Spirit got on me to cultivate, all praise to the Most High for it, and that he already referenced, if you pay attention, the median color of this chart is brown. So this actually also validates our stance, right? Moving on. Let's go back to the Igbo, though, because he said the Igbo have a valid claim to being Israelites. The Igbo became one of the principal ethnic groups to be enslaved during the Atlantic slave trade. So one of the greatest ethnic groups that is a contributor to the Atlantic slave trade are the Igbo, and they make up for a large deal, especially the majority of African Americans are of Igbo descent, right? Now, according to the foundational narratives taken from Igbo oral tradition, they say that some Jews left Judah in the periods of the destruction of the first and second temples and migrated to Nigeria. So this means that according to their oral traditions, they are of the southern kingdom, exactly who we say they are. So the Igbo maintained that they were of the southern kingdom, and they were a great contributor to the slaves that were brought over here to the United States of America and the Caribbean, which would explain why we say Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right, according to tradition and genetics, are the tribes that are the so-called black tribes, the ones that were brought over here from West Africa, right? So there's traditions and genetics, things that he says we didn't have that substantiate that. But wait, there's more, right? This is Ezekiel 4 and 5 to 6. I want to go into some biblical prophecy here, and again, let the word of God speak to really identify us and disqualify the Ashkenazim from, of course, being the legitimate children of Israel, right? I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So for 390 days, you will bear the sin of the people of Israel. After you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the people of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. So the Most High God has the prophet Ezekiel lay on each of his sides to represent a judgment for the sins of Israel that will happen, right? One for 390 days, the other for 40 days. We take 390, we add 40, we have 430. So this represents 430 consecutive years of a specific judgment for the transgressions of the nation of Israel, right? Now, coincidentally enough, in the 1440s, we see the start of the European slave trade in Africa. And in the 1870s, we see the importation of slaves from Africa coming to an end in the Americas, the Atlantic slave trade, right? So if we take 1870, we minus it by 1440, we get 430 years of that judgment that God pronounced on the nation of Israel. And this, of course, affected all the people on the chart, right? Because not only did you have West Africans kidnapped and taken from West Africa and brought over here, you had Taino Indians that were shipped to Spain. You had Native Americans of the Pequot tribe of New England taken and shipped down to Cuba. You had Mayans shipped down to Cuba, et cetera, et cetera. So this affected all people, so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian collectively for 430 years.